Right now, though, Sheriff Matt Saxton joins us. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you here. And how's 2018 been for the Sheriff's Department?
2018 has been a busy year. We're seeing with the economy a lot of turnover in jobs, just like everybody else are trying to hire folks. But we're hiring in the jail. We're fully staffed on the road, and we have a lot of good men and women that are working for the citizens of Calhoun County every day.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because that was one of the things I wanted to get to was, staffing and hiring. How many people do you need to hire for the jail?
So right now we have 4 open positions in the jail, and that changes on a daily basis. I have a meeting with my administrative staff every morning on our staffing levels and what we're looking at down the road.
Well, you're in pretty good shape. We had a job fair, I think this was about a year ago, and Wayne County sent one of their people over to try and recruit. I think they needed like 200 positions filled.
Wayne County Jail needed, as of 3 months ago, needed 160 corrections officers just in their jail alone. I did a survey with sheriffs throughout the state for corrections positions, and there were over 250 corrections positions opened in the state of Michigan, and that was just for county jails. Department of Corrections at the state level, last I knew, they needed over 800 corrections employees. And
man, and now that's the corrections side of things. What about like road patrols and that type of stuff? Are departments in better shape, or are some departments still looking for a lot?
Well, and the landscape there has certainly changed over the 25 years I've been in the business. When I got in, departments were only hiring certified law enforcement officers who put themselves through academies. Now many of the academies are filled with in-service folks. That means agencies are hiring people first and then sponsoring them in those academies. So that has changed.
Yeah, take the job, we'll get you the training.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's empty spots in law enforcement all across the state of Michigan. So those folks that took positions years ago just because that was the only job available, we see a lot of law enforcement moving from agency to agency, whether it's for better pay, closer to home, more opportunities. So there are law enforcement agencies all across the state are hiring, and we are looking for good men and women that want to do those jobs.
Probably a good segue into the news that we got recently that you've had an appointment to serve on the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. In fact, are you the chairman of it?
No. I am appointed to the 19-member commission by Governor Snyder.
So you're figuring out what the qualifications should be for jobs like what we've been talking about?
So much of that is, yes, much of that is set in statute. Back in 1965, the Commission on Law Enforcement Standards was created to license and make the profession of law enforcement more professional. And that this commission has been in place since then to set the standards for new law enforcement officers, ongoing training for current law enforcement officers. So that it's a 19-person commission. That commission, there's a director that is employed by the state or that commission, and there is several staff members that oversee the academies throughout the state of Michigan and the licensing process.
When you talk about academies, what are some of the places where people get trained for law enforcement jobs?
So right here locally, we have KCC. They have a law enforcement licensing program. It's a 2-year associate's program at KCC, and folks can leave there certifiable in law enforcement. And to activate their certification, they would just need to be hired by law enforcement agency. And we're seeing here locally, KCC usually has anywhere from 18 to 25 students in their program that's going through the MCOLS portion of it, which is their second year, the last year of the program. And the program always used to do mock interviews at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Now they're doing those mid-year, and they bring in the chiefs and agency heads from across the county and around the region to participate in those mock interviews. Many of those students at KCC now have job offers for when they're done.
Before they even graduate.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. What sort of training or qualifications are needed for the jail, the corrections jobs that you're talking about, like specifically in Calhoun County?
So on the corrections side of things, back about 10 years ago, they started the same type of licensing that MCOLS has, and it's Michigan Sheriff's Training Council, and there are requirements just like for MCOLS for a local corrections officer to be certified. So they have to graduate from high school, no felonies on their record, and have a valid driver's license, and they have to, prior to having a job offer, they have to take a state written and a physical test. And then once we hire a corrections officer, within that first year, they have to attend a corrections academy, which is a 160-hour long academy training, much like a shorter version of the MCOLS training academy.
Do you think that requirement that they can't ever have a felony is kind of stringent, or something that should be looked at, or do you think that should be set in stone?
Well, I think everybody deserves second opportunities, and there are some felonies out there that I think could be overlooked. There obviously are some felonies out there that shouldn't be overlooked whatsoever.
Sure.
Once you put yourself in a place where you may owe somebody something, and to be in a position of authority, that doesn't work out well.
You know, the reason I ask, there's been a lot of discussion about trying to make it easier for convicted felons to find employment, because then it's less likely you see them incarcerated again. But the other part of it too, I'm thinking is well, you take a guy who's had to serve some time in a prison, might have a pretty unique insight as to how to best work in one.
Yes and no. There are, as I say, everybody deserves a second opportunity. There are some positions in life that folks that are convicted felons probably shouldn't be working in, and every person is different as well. I say every day that the jail downtown Battle Creek is not filled with bad people. It's really full of good people who made bad choices.
Sure.
99% of the local inmates down there today will be back in our society. There are a handful of bad people, evil people in our facility right now.
Yeah.
That made bad choices, and they're evil people.
Sure.
But a majority of the folks that end up, everybody has some good in them.
Yeah.
And I think people can be rehabilitated. It's their choice how they operate once they get out of the facility.
What do these jobs pay working in your jail?
So we top out just over $24 an hour.
Okay.
And we are one of the few, a lot of law enforcement agencies or entities are going away from a defined benefit retirement, but we still have a defined benefit at the sheriff's office, and folks can retire after 25 years of service and at 50 years of age, with about 60% of their best 3 years.
Yeah, that's pretty attractive. Of course, you have to deal with a few evil people, but you guys have a system to deal with all of that, and checks and balances and support and all of that.
The profession is not for everyone.
Yeah.
And right now we're seeing with the unemployment at less than 4%, we're competing for corrections employees. We're competing with the Denzos and the manufacturing
Sure.
job market just to get people in to work. We had interviews yesterday, and we had 8 folks come in for interviews. I believe 4 of the 8 passed the initial interview phase of our hiring process. But like I say, the job is not for everybody. I've been fortunate. I had been with the sheriff's office for 25 years now, and have really enjoyed my career from working in corrections to next week I start my 7th year as sheriff here at Calhoun County, and
Already.
seems
Wow.
like just last week.
Yeah.
So,
what percentage of people working for you and in general are ex-military, former military?
we do have a handful of former military, and the state a few years ago made it easier for military personnel to become MCOL certified or local corrections certified. And we do look for those folks when we're recruiting for positions.
Certainly, they've had good training that applies. I mean, it seems like it'd be a pretty good fit.
Yeah, for most of the military folks on the corrections side of things, as opposed to 160 hours, they would only have to attend a 96-hour academy once we hire them.
As opposed to 160.
160. And then on the MCOL side of things, there are some abbreviated academies that the state has put in place that we've had a couple folks take advantage of to become MCOL certified here in the state as well.
And, you know, I mean, police organizations, we kind of talked about this recently, they're run on a military model. And so it's nice if you've got employees that have understood that and had it ingrained in them as members of the military, understand what that means and how that works. Would you agree?
I agree. And I think just a lot of their training goes hand in hand with a lot of the things we do on a daily basis as well, not just that command structure. I think everybody can handle the command structure. But
yeah, very interesting. When we come back, we'll take a couple of minutes, talk a little bit about your budget and what's ahead for 2019. You know, the state legislature's still in session this morning. You said you heard Mike Knopf's on the radio yesterday.
Well, I heard Senator Knopf's call in on his way to Lansing yesterday morning, and if the news is right, they're still in session up there as of 8:30 this morning. So,
holy cow! How'd you like to be the coffee vendor up there?
They're making some money last night.
They have all week, and last couple of weeks, in fact. And Sheriff Matt Saxton is our guest today. I guess the state legislature, we think, just adjourned after an all-night session.
Well, on break here, I was checking my emails, and I did get an email from Michigan Sheriff's Association lobbyist, and he says they are finally done after 22 hours in session.
So budgetarily and how the sheriff's department runs, I think the county approved your budget recently, right?
Yes, the county budget process finished up, I believe, the last meeting of November. And, you know, we started out with my budget out of the county's budget. The county and the sheriff's office, we started out about $1.8 million apart, about from what I requested and their directive at finance. And we ended up passing a balanced budget. Is it everything that we need here locally in law enforcement? No, but in reality, there's not enough money here locally to provide everything we need in law enforcement.
Yeah, there never is. As far as renting out the jail, in other words, housing prisoners from other municipalities and counties and stuff, how much of that are we doing? Could we do more, or is that leveled off?
So we're at the point here locally where we have pretty much maximized our ability to rent beds in the jail. Our facility is 660 beds. We average about 300 local inmates a day, and we always need to make sure there's room for a local inmate if needed.
Sure, yeah.
But this year, 2018, our end of the year revenue should be the highest amount of revenue we have made while the boarding business has been in place since 1996, 97.
So the plan's still working.
You know, it is. If we did not board here, we would have probably a handful of deputies working on the road.
Yeah, there'd be a big shortfall.
Right now,
yeah.
we have just about 55 deputies in our law enforcement division. If we did not board, and part of those deputies are with our contracts with Springfield and Penfield, but if we didn't board, we would have a handful of folks working the road. We would only have a portion of the jail open. We wouldn't have it open in full, so we'd have less staff in the jail.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was always the worry, you know, when they built that big jail with that idea of doing that, that maybe a bunch of others would do the same thing, and that the boarding market, if you will, would dry up, but that certainly hasn't been the case.
So there's a lot. We have a lot of partners in that business, the federal government, and we house 4 municipalities over on the east side of the state. Monday through Friday, we drive over to the east side of the state to Livonia and Dearborn and pick up their folks that they want to have spend jail time. Because in Wayne County, on misdemeanor charges, if they're sentenced to 10 days in the county jail, they're not going to see 10 days in Wayne County. They'll go in and be booked in and be released. So those municipalities pay us to house those folks.
Was there some legislative action that put a few dollars toward your budget recently?
So, well, last night about 3 a.m. I got an email that possibly they added some money into the secondary road patrol fund, which funds sheriff's office personnel to enforce traffic laws and handle traffic accidents and patrol the secondary roads throughout Calhoun County. We have 2 of those positions, 2 deputies doing secondary road patrol with our agency, and the money we get from the secondary road patrol fund does not cover fully those 2 positions. But it looks like they added another $2 million into the secondary road patrol fund. But keep in mind that $2 million spread over 83 counties. So what our portion will be minimal to my roughly $19 million budget.
Every little bit helps.
We'll take anything that comes our way.
Story recently in the news that 2 Calhoun County police dispatchers are facing charges related to opioid use and, I don't know, distribution possibly. Talk a little bit about that. It seems like this can hit anybody.
Well, you know, and it's Calhoun County Dispatch Authority, which is its own separate authority.
All the different agencies.
They dispatch for all of public safety throughout Calhoun County, and that's police, fire, EMS. But a couple of employees, it just goes to show the opiate issue does hit every walk of life. I mean, it's not the heroin or opiate use, but when people think of heroin, they think of a junkie shooting up in the corner in the alley. And in reality, it's not that in today's world with the opiate medication. We see from all walks of life where professionals get caught up and addicted to those opiate medications, and then unfortunately make bad choices on how to acquire those if they no longer can get them from their doctor.
Sure. And so that's what happened with a couple of employees of the dispatch?
You know, I think they, I'm not making excuses, but they got caught up in this opiate crisis that we see in across this country. Uh, and I would like to mention that the dispatch authority does a great job at providing that service to all entities here in Calhoun County. Um, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the chair of the dispatch authority board, but we have really our budget once again, we lowered the cost to local municipalities for 2019 to provide those services. Um, so our budget will be dropped about $400,000 going into 2019, and that'll be direct savings to municipalities here locally that pay those bills.
Are there a couple job openings now with dispatch?
So unfortunately, with those two dispatchers that were let go, there are those two positions, but we have a couple retirements, and we added a position here recently. So within the next 6 months, we need to hire at least 4 dispatch personnel. And that job posting is on the Calhoun County Dispatch Authority webpage, and it will remain open through the first part of January. And those jobs, a starting dispatcher starts out about, I believe it's $17.60 an hour, and tops out just under $24 an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, very interesting. Sheriff, we wish you a Merry Christmas. I know you'll be down in the jail bright and early on Christmas Day.
So, you know, that this will be my 6th year in a row to be in jail on Christmas morning. That probably doesn't sound right to some, but our jail ministries program provides a program called Jail to the Joy, which Dave Mason started 30 years ago. And then his Brett Falkema has taken over for Dave Mason as the chaplain in the jail, and he is continuing that program. So we have volunteers that come in and provide a Christmas package to each inmate in the facility on Christmas morning, and they sing some Christmas songs and a short service throughout each pod in the jail.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be a tough place to be on Christmas Day.
Fortunately for the inmates, I only lip sync. I don't sing along with the Christmas carols.
Well, on that note, we'll, in note of gratitude, wish you a Merry Christmas, Sheriff Matt Saxton. Thanks for being with us today.
And a Merry Christmas to all.